Well, hello and welcome to something a little bit different for this channel. I'm Betuor Gripley, and I'm coming to you with some sort of a little bit different sort of live recording, straight from my bedroom, office, command center, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I decided I would go ahead and record this. I have a couple I want to record tonight. I don't know if I'm going to get to the other one tonight, but I wanted to record a best of and worst of list. I want to have like top 5 and worst 5 stuff for 2024, but the list got kind of fairly long. So I decided to split into 2 separate portions. One with the best of, one with the worst of list. Today I'm going to be starting with the worst of for 2024. Which I think should be kind of interesting. Not trying to do what maybe some other people kind of did, and if something might be some crossover into it. Don't want to be exactly the social, political, whatever stuff. Just talk about kind of like the gaming industry and a couple of different like games that really stood out to me. Now you probably will see lots of things that are mentioned in other stuff. That I might not be mentioning them in the same sort of light, but like I don't really know if you can make a worst of 2024 list without mentioning kind of the big elephant in the room, which is Concord, which is where we will be starting with for right now. I have my list right here in front of me, ready to go. But yeah, Concord is the first one. So if you don't know, Concord was, if I remember correctly, I believe first announced, at least when I first heard about it, was at I believe a Sony sort of direct sort of special press conference. They're kind of like Nintendo Direct thing, talking about their games, and for some reason they chose to start off with Concord. I guess I don't know why. It has been the next big thing. Though I believe that was also the same thing I heard first about Marvel Rivals, which we'll get that to some other stuff there. But that was at least the first time I myself heard about it. Now, I did not actually watch this conference myself. I think there's somebody I followed that was like streaming them, and I think I dropped in a little bit during theirs. And of course, you saw some stuff like afterwards and stuff like that. I didn't really super watch it, but I kind of saw some of the different things. And I remember Concord was like the big one they led with there, which I think is also kind of like a big thing because they really thought this was going to be big. They were advertising, I believe it was once a week, story, lore, cinematic videos, whatever would be released, and they would kind of keep the game going, sort of, without knowing what they'll do for like the actual game stuff. But they were planning to do like all these cinematics, which honestly, and I will admit this myself, kind of seemed like this was supposed to be more of a single-player, story-driven experience, sort of something, set in some sort of world that they were kind of creating. So they had maybe these, what would probably have been cutscenes, maybe ready to go, and that's what they were kind of transferring there. But that's honestly all speculation, so I don't really want to kind of just lead with that, but it does kind of look like that to me. But they shifted it into the hero shooter arena, blah blah blah. Not really a genre I play, since I don't know the exact name. It's like, oh yes, it's one of these, the Overwatch, the hero, blah blah blah, whatever. Though honestly, I didn't think some stuff looked interesting. I mean, some of the stuff in the like character or the initial cinematic they showed off with it was kind of a little bit cringy, but some stuff looked okay. Honestly, I'm not the biggest hater of it. I think it had some definitely wrong parts, but I actually liked some designs. I mean, I think I liked some of them because they were bad. Like, I like the helmet chick. I don't know why. I like the weird square helmet. I don't know, it's weird. Makes you think something I would make in like Lego digital, how was it? LDD, digital designer. Which also, I just realized I never actually ported that over onto my computer when I got the new one, because the other one's just like back there. I need to actually do that at some point. I had a lot of stuff I built on there. But yeah, he reminded me of that, and I thought some of the alien designs looked okay. Like, not like the greatest. The one that really always stands out to me is like the mushroom head person. But that's more in like a sort of Star Trek alien. I mean, not saying that Star Wars had these too, but they looked like the type of aliens where like oh, you can do the hair and makeup for these guys very quickly, so like we can film an episode with them. Sort of that kind of style, so not like maybe the coolest aliens like that. I just can't believe in Mushroom Head. But I don't know, some of the guns, weirdly the gameplay looked okay. I mean, I'm not very good at shooters anymore with like my vision, so like I don't really play them too much, but it looked closer to my style than some other ones, which is weird because I heard there was lots of complaints about this for this type of genre. I think it had lots of other problems too, and I think one of your problems was when you did that free week and people played it and didn't really enjoy it, and then you're going to charge $40 for it, especially when in that same, I believe, conference they announced Marvel Rivals, and that got people more excited, which is surprising for a Marvel project. To me, I'm not going to be honest, I may be one of Marvel's bigger haters. Would describe myself as that, but I'm not like the biggest Marvel fan. I wouldn't think that game would do that good. But it's interesting you look at those two and you compare them, and I think that kind of shows you what happened. But if I remember correctly, it's been a little while since I had all the numbers. This game was in development for 10 years and cost like $400 million, because at some point apparently somebody looked at it and said this isn't good, and they spent like $150 million to try to fix it. Also, the game, well, after all this stuff about the game, if you're not familiar with Conquer, I don't know why you would be watching this and not kind of heard it, because it's kind of, I would say, maybe one of the biggest gaming flops, at least maybe one of the biggest ones in the digital age. There's some stuff with like the E.T. game and all the stuff with that and Atari and other things, but then I also feel like that's one of those weird ones because you made the physical copies of the game, and those didn't sell and got kind of shipped back by the retailers, so they had to like put them in a landfill that they made just to store those, whatever the history is there with the E.T. game. But I feel like this might be, in a way, one of the bigger ones, and maybe more embarrassing, and this was going to be like the new flagship thing. Not just like a small movie tie-in, well, maybe not small, but like it was going to be a movie tie-in game, and wasn't very much to the game. This was going to be like the next big thing that was going to be an expanded universe. I believe Sony said it was going to be their Star Wars, like they were planning on doing lots of stuff with it. And it just kind of failed. It lasted, I believe it was 10 days. I want to say maybe it was even a week before it got pulled. You had, I hate to use the word chills, because I feel like people overdo that. Honestly, it's more like industry stuff. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily people pushing a narrative or like, people get some like a little bit of money from like Sony to try to make people think it's doing well. But I don't know if you can really force people to like a game they don't like, especially when you have free ones that are like in the same genre that look better or more appealing to you. I don't know, this game's also kind of expensive now. I mean, of course, the Conquer was only $40. That's not too expensive, but like I might not be the first in line to just talk out $40 for a game that I'm not very interested in. I'm buying a little bit more like smaller indie $4 games. Hey, it's on sale on Steam for $2.50. I'll pick it up. I might play it 2 nights, but hey, I got 2 nights of enjoyment out of it. So like, hey, yeah, I could see why it might not have kind of done too great. But yeah, that thing, very weird. All the stuff they're trying to convince you it was good. Oh, and of course, if you also don't have many players, it was a 5v5 or 6v6. I forget what exactly the team count was. But you need to have other people to actually play it against and play it with. Otherwise, you couldn't play them. There wasn't any single player to it, nothing like that. So, of course, when you have lower and lower and lower players, it's going to make less people play it. Like some games I play, like Speedstorms and Marvel Rivals. Not Marvel Rivals, well, I play that a little bit too. Multiverses. Honestly, kind of like DC's game. I know people complain about that on there. We'll get to that a little bit later. But I can play those. People talk about like if the game does worse, less people play it. And then when less people play some of those online sort of focused games where you need other people, then you have even less people play it, and it just keeps shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And if I remember correctly, Concord was the one that couldn't reach 700 players on Steam. So, like, of course, that just starts like a downward spiral. There was talks that they got pulled because it got pulled and gave 4 refunds, if I remember correctly, which is kind of a big deal because, like, you really lost money because you could just say, well, you pulled in, you like made some money back. When you had your 4 refunds, you didn't make any money. And I believe they actually sold this physically too, so like maybe we lost more money that way. That I think maybe we might scoop that up to make it like a special resale type thing. Honestly, I'd probably love to own a physical copy of Concord if it was like reasonably priced. But with all that said, they apparently were looking at maybe making it into a free-to-play experience. I guess maybe more akin to like Marvel Rivals. And they just didn't think they would be able to make any money back on it. I will admit, I never actually looked at the game enough to know what was the like in-game store, grind, unlock, whatever was that kind of stuff that you were actually able to do in there. Like, how easy would that be able to be transferred over to a free-to-play game? Like, what skins could you grind to unlock? How did you actually unlock skins? Did you have a lot of skins to unlock? Now that's like the most fun thing to do in a video game, but like I don't know how much stuff there was even there to have like microtransactions be added in, and then people didn't even play your beta to try it out. Like, people might thought the game didn't look very great with like some of the character designs, the pronoun stuff, some other things like that. I thought the gameplay looked okay enough, but like I'm not the intended audience for this type of game, so like, hey, that doesn't really matter to anything. I mean, you're appealing to the person you're not trying to appeal to here. So maybe some people already decided it was probably going to be like bad. Also, these games are kind of a commitment, so you just there's lots of stuff going on there. Like, it's an overcrowded genre, and you kind of no life one of those, and you want to move on to another one to no life, blah blah blah. But yeah, it just did not make it, so that's kind of why it's up here. It was, like I said, well, I would assume. So let's talk about cost $400 million to make. And if you had to offer full refunds and pull the game, you actually then made $0. Like, there's no profit. They're not saying what if it didn't break 700 players on Steam. Not saying that it's like the only metric to judge it by. But I don't think you were really making enough money off of a $40 game to really like recoup expensive. Like, I don't think the game made $100 million, and then they only lost $300 million. But they got like nothing, which is very interesting. Also, I think it's very interesting to just look at it from like an industry standpoint of, I don't know why I keep on looking at my mic like it's a camera. My eyes keep on gravitating to it. Sorry, I don't know why I'm like, but it's very interesting too to me that they offered a full refund. I mean, I guess you would get in trouble if you did pull it after 7 days and people just bought it already. There could be some questionable legal stuff there, though honestly I'd like to see how that actually played out, because maybe that would do something about like spending in games, buying games, and them being shut down. Or there was some like car racing games that would like doing that, but I think some of those had been on like 3 versions later. It was like Forza Horizon 2 and then Horizon 5 or something like that, so it's not like the biggest deal. Something 10 years old, but I think that would be very interesting. I think some place was trying to put forward something to force companies to keep games going. They couldn't actually ever fully shut down. That's a little bit extreme, but it would have been kind of interesting to have something to actually talk about. Hey, I paid for this product and it got shut down soon afterwards. What was the like okay time to shut down something that you paid for? Which I think that would have been an interesting thing to have happened. But that's why Concord is at the top of this list, because it's just like, it costs lots of money. Didn't really look like it should have cost tons of money too. So like I said, I don't know, maybe they did all that with the cutscenes, and maybe they were, like I said, maybe it was supposed to be a different type of game, and they got forced to turn it into like a hero shooter, whatever thing. That could have cost lots of stuff. Also, you worked on it for 10 years. For those who don't know, I work at a small indie studio. We're still working on our first game, so we're going to give lots of stuff away, because of course the NDA, blah blah blah. But we've talked about stuff as we progressed about like what would be the cost to have like X number of employees on for X amount of time, and like could we be this big of a studio, that big of a studio. Also, I should mention I'm a level design team lead, or the level design team lead. But it's like, okay, could we have 4 people on the team, 6 people on the team, 10 people on the team? If we had 4 people on the team, let's say we paid them this salary, how much money would that cost us over a 2-year period, a 5-year period? Just different things like that, and it's interesting to look at it that way of how does that cost add up of just paying somebody a salary to work on something. So like there's a good chance that's where lots of the cost went. I mean, you pay for a couple other things along the way too, though maybe the people in like a company that size build their own in-house tools. They don't just keep doing it like the company I'm at would be doing, because of course we are doing like it ourselves, or like buying some other tools, that type of stuff, indie studio grind, if you will. But they would probably be doing that more themselves. But just thinking like they worked on a game for 10 years. A Sony studio probably had a decent number of people working on it. Like, oh boy, also I would imagine someplace like that you would probably get paid more than like where I work. So like, of course you're going to have some stuff with that. Like, I'm sure you probably have lots of people making 6 figures there. So I don't know, that adds up a lot too. Let's say if you're making 6 figures, you worked on it 10 years. What, that's $1 million right there at least. You might be making more than that. I mean, hey. But yeah, I just think that one's very interesting. So obviously Concord has to be top of our list of worst things of the year. Next up, a little bit of a different one, because of course I have some other things mixed in here. Mostly it's stuff that I've kind of heard about or found interesting. You will probably have a couple niche things on here. Later down the list, definitely going to be niche. But we're going to go right ahead to a niche one that you may not have even heard of, which is Lego Horizons. Yes, they made a Lego Horizons Forbidden West sort of game. And I believe when I first saw it, it was, because it came to Steam too at the same time. I think when it released, it was $70. I think I heard somebody say it was later $60. But I was pretty sure when I first saw it, I saw it for $70. I thought this would be like a $20 game. Whenever they showed it off, it looked like a small game. It's not from the Traveler's Tales devs either. It's something a little bit different. I think it actually is a Sony in-house sort of game or something. I thought I remember seeing that. Really weird game. The trailers were all kinds of weird stuff. Almost looked a little bit more like a kid's game, which is weird because I don't think of Horizons exactly being a kid's game. Not saying that it can't be a kid's game, it just didn't look like the type of thing that you would have with this. You also had, like, I think only one, if I remember correctly, Lego set, which was really neat. People that would have wanted some more Lego Horizons kind of like crossover stuff. Honestly, that would probably work better than like metallic robotic creatures, dinosaurs, giraffes, that sort of thing. I think would look cooler as like a set that you can actually touch than like a game. Also, Horizons is a weird one to me because it seems like Sony's really trying to kind of push it, but also not push it that much. But I just don't know if it's actually doing as well as they would want it to do. So, all of that I think is really interesting. But yeah, that was a game that released, and I don't think I've even heard much stuff even talking about it. There is somebody actually on the Discord server that I think got that for Christmas, because they talked about, I think, having beaten it. I'll be honest, I've been kind of disappointed if I got that game for Christmas. I mean, I guess if you really wanted it and all that. But I was looking at it, like $70. I'm like, whoa. I was like, well, maybe I might play it. I like some Lego games. The Horizon aesthetic, at least especially in Lego form, I think is really neat. I have some other problems with that game series as a whole, but it's not too bad there. But it's just like, it's just an expensive game. I don't know, it was just expensive game. Who really asked for it? It's by some, like, I'll say newer people, but it's not like the people that did all the Star Wars games and all of that. Like, that might be a little bit more interesting if they did it. And it was just like some random city collectible minifigures characters you could also use, and some dance parties and some other stuff. But I put that on here for just like, man, they spent some like actual money on that. And then like, I think I saw one thing talking about how few people had actually bought it, but like, it wasn't even big enough to make the rounds of, ooh, look at the Steam charts for this game. Because it's just like, nobody really cared about it either. And is expensive enough that I don't think anybody who looked at it that much went, yeah, I'll pick it up. So yeah, I have that one here just because I think that one's just a very interesting experience. It was just kind of a like whimper. I mean, well, I guess you could say it kind of reminds me a little bit of Concord in that sense, but you know, it's a single player experience, or at least can be played single player. I don't know, maybe it's multiplayer. I honestly have no idea, but it's like, hey, you can play that. You don't have to worry about like the servers shutting down or anything like that. It is a game you get, you play, move on to the next $70 experience, which I hate how that's becoming a standard. Next up, I said I had the niche stuff at the bottom, but apparently I was wrong. Because this is a niche thing only this big boy cares about. And that is Godzilla versus Godzilla X Kong Titan Chases. Godzilla vs. Kong was the other game. I hate having GXK and GVK as two separate things. That's just too close. But Godzilla X Kong Titan Chases. Why is it on here? Also, what is the game even about? You probably don't know. Gosh, I wish I had a better way to explain it, because I think sometimes it's described as like an MMO RTS or RTS City Builder or whatever. It's that one where you have like the stuff when you get resources in there and you train up troops and you send them out to the map to do different things. You do alliance raids and blah blah blah. It's one of those games with Godzilla stuff in it. Admittedly, you do collect creatures, and apparently there's something to do with maybe collecting kaiju. You do something with the kaiju, so it has some creature collecting. I don't fully hate these things, I just don't really get into them. The last one I played was Mecha Domination Rampaging. I streamed that just a couple of times. Loved the creature design. Well, loved most of the creature designs in that one, but it's just not really one that's super engaging. Of course, early on you have some more stuff to do. Later on, it takes a little bit longer. There's more longer wait times, blah blah blah. But it's one of those types of games with the Godzilla, specifically I guess the Monsterverse Godzilla and Kong stuff in it. It was supposed to be released as a tie-in game to Godzilla X Kong The New Empire, which I believe was March of 2024. Somewhere there, I think March or April is when they normally kind of do it. And it's still not out. I mean, I think it's been in like soft launch in different places. I actually did a couple streams of it. I was able to get an APK or whatever working for it at one point, but then update and nobody cared enough to make another one, so I was able to play it again. And then I'm like, well, if it's going to be this complicated, I don't really want to try to super get into playing it, and then updates come out and I'm not going to be able to play it for another week, and then like I play it for 3 weeks or whatever. Just wait till it actually officially comes out, and it just hasn't came out. Which is sad. I mean, I feel like this is, well, the main reason this is on here is I feel like it's missed its window. Granted, you also could do, I think, a lot of stuff by having tie-in games for the Monsterverse series. I think you're really missing a good Godzilla game, like a really good kaiju game. I played Giga Bastion and like it. I don't know, it wasn't what I enjoyed from the Pipeworks trilogy. It was just a little bit different, but I think you could do something like that with the Monsterverse, or just even Godzilla in general, and we just kind of haven't gotten it. Godzilla Battle Line, I enjoyed that game, but like it's only so much that those kind of mobile games can do to grab people, and I'm afraid this is pulling a game that I saw do something similar, which was, if I remember correctly, Jurassic World Primal Ops. I believe that was that one's title. I believe that was another one that was like March, May movie release. Game was in soft launch. The granted, you could at least finally get in there and play it. And I want to say it like released in September and it shut down in October. Actually, somebody I followed had got paid or like sponsored to play it and was supposed to release their video around the time it was going to be like officially releasing. But apparently they were able to get the information beforehand that the game was going to be shutting down, so they just like never did. They knew that like 3 months beforehand, which like I never really spent my. Well, I think I might have got the condo pack, like one of those $2 stocking offer type things. But yeah, that game shut down. Not saying that that would make it, but Jurassic World, not part. Jurassic World is a brand difference. Other two tie-in games are still going. You've got Jurassic World the game that released with Jurassic World, and you have Jurassic World Alive, which released with Fallen Kingdom. Both of them are still going. I'd say fairly strong. I think this one could have probably made it. Gameplay was different enough. It was honestly a little bit more fun. Might have been a little bit more engaging than you would maybe want from a lot of mobile games, but that one could have done it. I think with the other ones having done it too. But I think it also just missed that window of as a movie tie-in game releasing around the time the movie does. Because I don't really think soft launch in Thailand, Taiwan, Ecuador, Nicaragua really counts as like being out. But yeah, that's why I have this game on here. It's one that I think could have done well. And I think if it kind of released into the market at a different time, it could have done good, but they're just kind of like taking their time with it, and it is just taking too long. And I don't think this is one of those games that's going to release and stick around with us for a while. I would love for it to do so, but yeah, this is one that's on there because you're doing a tie-in game, and it may release an actual year after the movie it's tying in has released. Moving on, we have Star Wars Outlaws. I kind of was originally maybe going to combine some of these. There's a lots of games that kind of fit into some of these same complaints Star Wars Outlaws has, or that I have with them. Lots of them is like really bad faces for the really good technology we have nowadays. I think you should do like better face capture, and the people shouldn't come out looking ugly or off or whatever. Of course, one of the criticisms or deflections people always have that's brought up is, oh, you calling the base model ugly? And most of the time they're like really attractive, conventionally so too. But something gets done in the games to make them just not look good. I don't know, bigger chin, something funky nose. In case of Outlaws, I don't even know how to explain it. She kind of looks a little orange and, I don't know, wrinkled. Something looks off, like she almost looks like she's supposed to be an alien, but she's a human, and there's just something off there. Of course, there's other things wrong with the game too. I still didn't actually play it. I actually have a copy of it from when I got my new computer. It was one of the free things that came along with it, but it was just kind of so meh. It just didn't even look fun. Like, I haven't even just bothered to check it out just for the lulz with that. But I saw like the stealth stuff just didn't look good. The gunplay they showed off looked kind of mad, though. If I'm gonna be honest, spicy opinion, I don't know if the blaster pew 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 really has the most fun game with gunplay. I feel like it's probably something you could still do to make it good, though. But they just kind of didn't. The only thing I really saw that looked good from that game was you did have cute, like if you tried to shoot your dog, lizard, frog creature thing, you went pew, or something. You just like finger guns it with it, like rolled over dead. That was actually a cute little bit of animation interaction there. But lots of the other stuff I saw with it just looked kind of bad. And the reason I actually also put this on here too, is, and I know this is like a different studio. If I remember correctly, this was Ubisoft. And I believe the other game was from EA, the Fallen Order, Fallen Survivor games. But I feel like you actually had lots of goodwill being built back with your Star Wars video games. Those were pretty decent. I at least enjoyed like the story. So granted, I never also played the game. It wasn't my type of game, but I was able to experience the story through other people. And I think they were pretty good. And I feel like this one, you could have done something with that. Star Wars does have lots of cool, like, bounty hunter, outlaw, whatever stuff going on. Because it's a little more gunplay focused and lightsabers. I don't know if that was going to be the coolest, but you could have some other cool, interesting weapons or gadgets or something going on. Hey, you're playing as a criminal, but it's one of these, like, criminals that's not really able to be a criminal anymore. You used to be able to have, like, the rogue scoundrel. You used to be able to do bad stuff, but you can't anymore. But that's kind of why that one's also on here. It has lots of that other stuff. The facial animations is something that I feel like is wrong with lots of other things. Ironically, I think, I guess it's not too much the facial animations, but with the other Star Wars games, was it Kree? Sarah? Something like that? The Jedi person that took Cal Kestis in. I forget what her name is. Her eyes, I don't know, just look kind of weird. She almost had that, like, is she supposed to be an alien? Because you do have some of those things where it's like, that's basically a human, but they have like a weird wrinkle on their head, and that's the alien species or something. I don't know. Her eyes just look kind of weird to me on there. But like, I think the other stuff, because able to make up, not saying that's going to keep me from doing it. Just getting the game's eyes looked weird. But yeah, there's lots of other just kind of like a weird stuff with this one, and it's one of those two I feel like at some point I'm probably going to play it and maybe try doing a review on it. I don't think anybody else at the review company actually bothered to pick up the game, which I can't blame them for doing so. But that is why I have this on here, is you have that, all the other little problems, and I feel like Star Wars was like, the stocks were going up. We're gonna go to the moon with Star Wars again. People are excited for Star Wars. Ooh, you're finally playing as I guess not bounty hunter, but a rogue scoundrel, whatever, out in sort of like an open world, driving on the land speeders or sky speed, I don't know, whatever the little hover bike things are. You're doing that. It feels like you should be able to make a game like that that's fun, and somehow they failed. But it also adds to the next thing on the list, which I kind of maybe gonna have it separate at first, but I kind of want to include it here, which is just kind of in general Ubisoft, because it looks like they're about to die, because apparently that game did fairly bad. It didn't really make the money they thought it was going to. I don't know if it was maybe as bad as some other stuff, but then like, hey, I got a new computer and I got a copy of the game. So like, how does that really count for sales? I mean, I guess it's not really like a sell, but I guess the people I got the computer from bought the game. I don't know how that works. But I guess it's because I'm talking about that, breaking it down, like, does that actually count as a sale, or does it count as this? Because of some other games that said, oh, we have X number of players, and that's not X number of sales, because that could also include people who got sent a review code, blah, blah, blah. I think that game was also like Game Pass, so you have some other like funky stuff there. But yeah, this might be another one of those kind of experiences, but apparently did not do well. I remember seeing some of the investor stuff with the game. And also, next up with that is Assassin's Creed Shadows. Just want to have a special shout out for that, because it's apparently actually coming out somewhat soon. The day of recording this, I believe they've just got like somebody release a video and maybe a day before of like 4 hours hands-on experience with the game, sort of the review they have of it, but that game kept getting pushed back, new controversy, and maybe even some of the stuff like little controversy, but it was just kind of like piled upon piled. But let's see, for some of the stuff I remember correctly, the symbol on the dude's sword is from One Piece. They sent Japanese content creators like a special goodie box, which had was it kanji, whatever they like, not I guess writing, but the one that's like the big symbols where it's like a whole word condensed into like one little thing. That was apparently just gibberish. It just looked cool. It wasn't anything actually that said anything, but they sent it to the Japanese people that would know what it was supposed to say. It's not like they just sent it to like generic American people that like, ooh, that looks cool, but we don't know what it says. They did call that out. They did the thing with the, I think, pre-order statue where it's like a symbol of World War II, nukes being dropped on them because it's missing one of the legs because it got blown off in the nuclear explosion. And this is like back in the day, like it would have been a complete thing. And my own personal favorite is all the bull that was made up about Yasuke. Now, if anybody talks about any sort of racism, race baiting, race whatever stuff with him, I just want to say I am specifically calling out the person that they cited as their like historian for whatever he was supposed to have done. All of his stuff, I believe we found out, was like made up. His like stuff backing himself up was his alt accounts on Wikipedia saying that they corroborated with what he was saying. Then that's the person they went with. Granted, it sounds like there's not really that much super known about Yasuke. For those who don't know, he was like a black retainer, is what I believe was the official term of, I guess not really a samurai, but a shogun, so like higher up. I believe it was Nobunaga. Lots of story about how he got there and other things with that. But he's not, I think, very well known. But I mean, hey, he was like butler, bodyguard, I don't know, no all fully curtailed and retainer. To me, it doesn't really sound like you're probably anything too special, but apparently they sourced this one person who was supposed to be a Yasuke expert, and he kind of fabricated it, wasn't fact-checked, corroborated his own sources. His source was himself, but his other self said it was okay. I think that is just really it. I mean, also it's very unfortunate for them with all the other stuff surrounding Yasuke that the person they went with, like, oh, we consulted a historian, this historian made up all of his stuff. I think that was just like chef's kiss. But yeah, that game apparently is not looking very well. I mean, they keep on delaying it to try to fix it. I believe the last major one, oh gosh, which also I think the last delay, which they had to delay it again, is on like the 30th anniversary of some terror attack in Japan too. Because like, of course, they just can't win. Like, I think you would be extra scrutiant at this point to make sure you don't screw up this badly, and they somehow still do. I don't know how they managed to like release on a terror attack, and you think after all the other controversies you would double check to make sure there is nothing that ever happened on that day. But yeah, but one of the other big one, I think the one that actually moved it back into 2025 release window, is they were going to try to rework some stuff to improve the game to make it more, not playable, but more I can't remember what the exact word was, but just to try to fix some problems with the game. But like 3 extra months probably not going to give you something with that, which as big of a game as this is. But yeah, that's just it's on there too, because it looks like it might be another Ubisoft game that they don't think will do as well. It doesn't like they think it will do that well themselves, not just like internet people talking about it. It sounds like actually that. I mean, at least to me, when you delay it by 2 or 3 months to try to fix needed problems or something like that, that sounds like you think it's not that great. And I think it's been really moved back maybe by like 6 or 7 months at this rate, like in total. So like, that's not normally a good thing. That it shows you that there was some issues with it, and just with all Ubisoft's kind of like bigger stuff now not doing good, the investors not being happy, stock just keeps going down. I've talked about maybe them being bought out by Tencent or something like that, which I mean, it was like the worst thing ever, if we're gonna be honest. But I do think that is very, very interesting. Oh, also special shout out to something they just had in the past 3 days, I believe, at least the time we're recording this. That was talking about how they had a hard time adapting Japanese culture because they didn't want to talk down to the Japanese about their own culture or talk to them about that. But isn't that kind of the whole point of having a game set in like feudal Japan, is to do the feudal Japan setting and to see that? I mean, of course, there's a video game with, what was it, your brain from the future going back into the, I don't know, what is it, the Lost. I never actually played Assassin's Creed. I never had a story like that. You were just playing assassins going through the stuff and blah blah blah. Apparently, it's not that, but like, hey, I don't know. You have lots of anime that's set in feudal Japan. Japanese people don't like. We know this. You're talking to us about our own history. If like it was a little bit more fantastical, whatever stuff. But yeah, I thought that was just really interesting. There's always just something coming out about that's just not really good, and it seems like the stuff I'm seeing, the Japanese people aren't very happy with it either. But it seemed like I said, like almost any misstep they could do, they have like done it, and somehow nobody's had like a cultural sensitivity person to like double check some of the stuff they have done to just make sure this stopped happening. Like, not just like this was all in the beginning of stuff, but this was like it keeps happening. But next up on the list, I have Multiverses, which is a little bit different because, like, hey, I guess it didn't fully officially release this year. Well, sorry, I guess it officially fully released this year. But it is kind of a little bit of a funky one because, like, I feel like this game honestly came out 2-3 years ago to me, and honestly that's kind of why it's on here, is they did that, I won't say stunt, but they did the whole thing where they had it released, but then I guess it wasn't doing good, so they pulled it from the market to like fix it, and it was gone for what, a year and a half? Maybe it was just half. I think it was a year and a half. I feel like it was a long time. I honestly didn't think it was ever going to be coming back. It finally like re-released, and it kind of had people pissed off, but pissed off people for the whole thing of like people paid for the game and it disappeared, then went free to play, and they didn't really all get compensation. I believe some people are still waiting for skins to get added back that they had originally, other stuff like that. And this is like a prime example of one of those games where I think too, I mean, they do have a decent enough, in my opinion, more single player experience. I do enjoy the rifts. I mean, because of course the events are online and other stuff like that too. But you at least have some stuff here that you can play. I mean, of course you have to be connected in it to do anything in the game. I don't have to play like online, ranked, all that kind of stuff. I can just beat up some bots in the Rift mode and kind of have somewhat fun. But this is one of those games where it's like, it just kind of keeps going down and down and down. They got a little bit money hungry. And more obviously so, like, oh, now the battle pass is split in two, and you get less rewards than you did before, and it's really hard to unlock the characters, which is really funny because people compared it to the recently released Marvel Rivals, which has, I believe, actually more characters in it than the Multiverses does. It also is getting them at a much quicker rate too, which is actually incredible because different games, different things going on there. But they've also shifted it to a system where you don't just get currency and you use that currency to then unlock whichever fighter you want, with like the newer ones costing a little bit more currency. No, now you have to unlock them in basically a specific order off of doing certain type of tasks. Like I said, I like to play the Rift stuff. You don't get that XP from playing Rift. Maybe you complete some missions to get some of that stuff, but you basically have to play against other people. I don't really like that. Still, like, I'm having a really hard time unlocking the characters. Much of the battle pass being split. A lot of the events now have been kind of sucky. Not very many skins being offered. You can't really get too much in there. Like, I don't know, you're getting free skins for free. I mean, it's like time investment grinding. This makes it not exactly free. I mean, I don't think you would say your paycheck was free. You had to work for that. I think that's kind of a bad example, but it's like something you worked for. It's not like it's just free when you had to do all these different things to then be able to get them. but also I feel like that is something you offer to keep people playing, keep them grinding, keep them coming back. Once I like get the 2 event currencies I can use to buy 1 skin, and there's nothing else really for the rest of the week, I'm kind of out. But I kind of have this one on here because it's supposed to be this big rework. It came back out, not doing great. Apparently there was some more official investor statement, something from I think WB Games, that just was really not great. I think they faulted lots of it with Marvel, not Marvel, I wasn't like Marvel Rival, Multiverses. And I mean, granted, I'm curious how they actually measure that. Cause like, is that including the original dev time and when the game first came out, and counting the devs working on it in that span of time when it wasn't being active and wasn't making any money? Is it just from then? Is that just from its re-release saying it hasn't made that much money to be like, or is meeting their expectations? What's your expectations? Are you expecting Fortnite money? I would love to see the behind the scenes way of like how they actually balance that. Cause like, is it from the reception of the game? Just because I would be also curious to know, like, if it's just from its re-release, you tell me it hasn't sold that many skins, people aren't buying it, people aren't buying the battle pass, making the battle pass a little bit more grindy and all that stuff. That turn people off from actually buying the battle pass. You want to get hooked up with a battle pass and not want to play the game later. Lots of things there, but yeah, it feels like it's a dying game. I know there's out estimations on their Reddit. People always freaking out. People say it's a dead game or dying game. I don't think this is probably going to make it on there. Maybe somebody is. Now I will see myself on there and people try to clown on me for saying this. But I think it's just kind of like a downward thing. And it goes downward, it's not going to have too many more people hop on to play it. Because you don't want to hop on a live service game and probably maybe spend some money, or at least that's what the studio's hoping you're going to do, and you expect it to close in 2 months, 6 months, 10 months. I have played lots of games, or haven't played lots of games that I would have played, because I'm like, ooh, it looks like it's dying. Do I really want to invest this time into it? It's not like it's these single player experiences, or old school experiences, if you will, where like, oh, you played the game for 40 minutes, like you beat the story, or thinking like say Zoo Tycoon was like, okay, I had lots of fun, I played some of the campaign levels, I made some of my own zoos, I did this, I did that, okay, I had a fun time with the game. No, this is something that's just going to disappear. People don't really want to get involved with that, and you have so many other things that will take up the time and energy and all this other stuff. Right now there's that Rogue Rift that's out. I don't want to go into explaining it, but it's like a weird roguelike mode where you do like basically the same 5 battles each day, and you get 5 attempts on it, and you get X number of rewards when you finish it, and they're basically all trash, but there's one really nice skin in there I'm trying to go for. I think I'm at 243 chests out of 300 without that good skin in it. I'm really tired of it. I'm just doing it for that one. Whew. Something might have to happen if I don't unlock it until 300. But it's just like that. It's not keeping me. I don't really just want to do it. They were supposed to have fixed some stuff, and it just doesn't look like they brought anybody really back. Nobody buys the BS of saying, oh, it was an alpha or beta. You knew it was going to disappear. We're not rug pulling anybody. You kind of did, especially if people didn't get the stuff back. You were supposed to fix stuff, nothing too much changed. Still, you did add the riff, so hey. But just like, as they keep on changing some stuff weirdly. Characters got a little bit more floaty recently. I haven't really liked that, but it just feels weird just being used to playing like this, and you tap sideways and it just goes shooting off the edge of the level. But it's just on here because it's like a very unique thing to me to pull it for that amount of time, to rework it, release, and then see what's happening afterwards. And you have, I think, lots of hope within the community that this is good. Granted, might be a little bit more harsh with like dead game, dying game, whatever. But I do think it's trending downwards. I think dying is right. Are you going to be dying in the next 2 months, 6 months, 9 months? Will you make it another year or two? Who knows? I don't know. I guess depending on what they add in, I might be in for the long haul. I might be bouncing. I honestly don't really know. I mean, hey, some of the data mine stuff, like even from the Lego Movie, because that was like a long time ago. But like, hey, you add him in, you gonna keep me around. You add in the the Wicked Witch of the East, West, whatever. The green skin from the Wicked movie, not from Wizard of Oz movie, but from Wicked. I also don't think she's going to play in a style that's going to be my type of thing. It might not play in my style either, but I at least like him. But you do some additions like that, I might not really be around. I don't know, but just kind of casually log back in. Next up is a game that's probably unknown to everybody. Unknown number 9. I almost feel bad with this one. I feel almost like I'm punching down. But I want to put this one on here because this one, of course, there's some other stuff. There's some DEI, Sweet Baby Inc., Talk, some other stuff with that. But it is a game that just kind of released. I think I did get a whole bunch of ads for it on X when I would just like doom scroll on there. Because the name kind of stands out to me. Maybe on Twitch too. Like I'm somewhat familiar with the name because I remember saying like, huh? Also, it stuck out in my mind as like sounding similar to something. Maybe it was like Mighty Number 9 or something like that. It kind of made me think of something weird because I don't know. Unknown number 9. It's unknown N-O for number 9. It's like, okay. But apparently there was making this like a shared universe thing. There was a like roadmap that was shared around quite a bit after some like worse news came out. I think also the studio has been maybe shuttered at this point or something. It was like back in the news talking about them again. But it was like a whole roadmap of stuff where it was like different spin-offs, special cinematic thing being released, scripted podcast episodes. It was like a weird shared universe thing, which I mean, I guess admittedly, I think it's something that everybody wants to release with their game. I know there's, I can't guess I couldn't talk about. I guess at NDA. Well, I'll just say this: somebody at work has mentioned like, oh, I would love to do this. I would love to do that. Ooh, let's do one of these. Let's do some of that stuff. And of course, lots of that stuff also would be kind of marketing, like a scripted podcast. Well, honestly, you think that would be a little bit more kind of like beforehand, but like this is some like extra marketing stuff. I guess it was like releasing an ARG or something like that. But it just was interesting seeing all the stuff they had planned that just didn't come to fruition because of some different kind of decisions they made. It didn't look the most interesting. I saw some like combat and it looked kind of old school. It also didn't really look the greatest, but I think you have some, I don't know, there's some stuff that just almost looks old now. I don't know, is it the hyper? I think too, if you do a bit more of a stylized art style, you look better than like a okay-ish not super stylized, like super realistic style. Makes you look a little bit older there. Man, like I said, like the combat, the art style, it just didn't really do it. The story didn't look the most interesting. There's something about like you possess people and you move around, like you take over this soldier, kill the 2 people next to you, go over here, then you shoot that person, something like that. It looked like that could have been mechanically neat. I think you actually could have maybe done something with that sort of mechanic if I even got that correct. It looked like with a little bit of the trailer stuff I have seen, that's what you were supposed to do. Of course, the ending fight, the kind of, man, you were fighting a dude with a cane or something weird like that. But I just kind of have that one on here for just, it's interesting looking at studios going all in on stuff, and hey, I applaud people for actually trying to create something more or less new and original like that. Like Concord, I think those are the 2 we kind of covered so far. There's actually a new and original, I mean, Assassin's Creed, however, 11 Star Wars outlets, Star Wars. But those 2 were actually trying to do something new. and make something big, I think it might be smarter to focus on just making something good, and then if that is good, doing other stuff. Though nothing I think exactly wrong with maybe planning for DLC after you release, because you hope the game does good and you want to keep adding it. But some games work better for that. I don't know if this one even going to have DLC or not. I just remember it had I think it had 9 things on the roadmap. It's like, these 4 already released and these are the ones coming up, and it's just kind of like, it was just interesting looking at it. They had all of that stuff planned. I'm curious if it was already made or not with some of the different things. It was just was interesting. Oh, I think it was also like short stories too. I don't know, just interesting they were going that hard in on that universe, and I believe that has been fully shut down. I said there were some other things attached to it, but it wasn't even one of like the really big ones. I don't think it even had that much of a big controversy like a Vow game coming up, which if I do another one of these next year, probably is going to make that list. But like that dev had lots of big things he said. Which I guess honestly can go on to the next one with that is social media posts by devs. That's kind of a big lose of this year. Maybe a win depending on how you see it. But it's just like you have lots of devs that choose to go on social media and just like hate on people that would potentially buy the game. And I just think that is interesting. Like, and of course, like I mentioned, Avowed had a really big one with that. I think he even tagged out Elon Musk or something. Like, I think, of course, that made it go kind of like bigger. You're picking on, I'll say just a bigger man. He also owns the platform. You're doing it on some stuff like that. That's probably not really going to work out well for you if he gets into that and brings it up, blah, blah, blah. But like, I think Avowed didn't even really have anything like that. It's just kind of whimpered. And in a way, I hate to see a game that is trying something different and that could have been really cool and not like the worst other stuff going on in it not make it, but at the same time it not making it because it just didn't interest people in buying it also is a problem. I feel like this is also, because I think I saw some advertisement for it maybe like 2 weeks before it released on like X and maybe Twitch. But I'd say that's like the most to make me buy something, especially too, like, I don't have the most money going around, 2 weeks heads up. I think it was a $60, $70 game too, maybe it was cheaper. I might need to give it credit if it was like $40, but I believe it was like a full price experience that was releasing. I think I remember even seeing people making jokes about unknown. I'm not unknown because I never saw any marketing for it. I feel like there's been lots of games like that. Betuor Gripley was also one for me, but I think it might have lived off the persona. So I had a friend that knew all about it. And it's like, I remember seeing that game from like, huh? What's that game? What? Huh? That was a weird one. But yeah, which I guess also probably down on the list, weird marketing stuff. But I don't know, maybe it's just not in the right circles. Maybe the X ads are better targeted at me than for that say if it's all like Avowed. I don't know, not Avowed, sorry. Unknown Numb. I don't want to get that mixed up. I think there's lots of also games this year that I just kind of mix up the names. Like, you kind of hear about them, you see a little bit of combat or something, it kind of blends in with 5 or 6 other games it's also releasing that like kind of get talked about and you move on from them. But yeah, that's really why Unknown Number 9 is on here. Don't want to hate on this one too much. I hope I'm not hating on too many of these either. Well, I might be hating on Multiverses a little bit, you know. Maybe Lego Horizons because of the XCOM. But those are like almost like more me games, not just like bigger industry stuff. Those are maybe ones I can be a little bit more passionate about. But yeah, this one is just also kind of a funky one because it's just, it was interesting looking at the stuff they had planned, and maybe you should have did a little bit more improvement in the game now. Maybe, you know, marketing, I don't know. That might be an interesting post-mortem retrospective thing to do. But yeah, that next time I talk about the social media posts, I think that has just been very interesting seeing games coming out that could have been big, that people might have really liked, just releasing and, I won't say releasing, about to come out, somebody, normally higher up to, says something that's just like, what? Why would you want to say this to potential customers? I get people are very opinionated politically. I myself am that way. I probably gonna have to curtail my X account once this game I'm working on gets more released, because I might have, well, I don't really say too much of that. I guess I repost stuff also, but I'm probably really bad with that too. But hey, I don't care what you are, who you are, what you believe in. Give me X number of dollars and buy my video game, please. That's my professional opinion of looking at. I don't care. Please buy my game. We will happily sell it to you. However, but apparently some people don't like greenbacks at all. They don't want to have a loaded, loaded one of these. They want to be broke bitches. Excuse me, sorry, pardon my language. I don't. You can tell here, I like to eat. I would like to actually have a full refrigerator. But apparently some people do not believe that way. And if you're X, Y, or Z, they do not want you to buy their product, a product they worked on. They might want to tank the whole rest of the company, throw them under. I know Avowed, that one guy did that. Apparently there was some other stuff about maybe some problems with his hiring stuff. Sounded like there was some discrimination stuff going on. There was the, what was it, mouthwashing, smaller indie game. Sound music person was mad that Asmon might have been playing that game. Because there was some other controversy with art for that, and apparently got him onto it and he was going to check it out. And this guy didn't want him to check it out because he didn't want him and his community to look at the game, even if that might get people to buy the game. You know, a really big assuming your game's not like trash and they're going to like clown on it and stuff like that. A game that was, I think, was supposed to have been good. It wasn't my type of game. But like them doing all of that and then like, ooh, do I want to support this kind of person? Because what if I'm like that person I'm watching, which I don't know, somebody with a big following, you might agree with them somewhat. If they don't want that person to play it, would you then want to play it? I just think this is kind of a little bit of a stupid thing. I believe there was a quote from Michael Jordan. I believe it was him, where they were talking about something about buying shoes, and I guess somebody asked him about Republicans buying shoes or something with, I don't know, something about Republicans, and I think he was like, well, Republicans have to buy shoes too. So it was something like that, and that is, I think, a good approach to take in the industry. Nothing wrong with having your own opinions, choosing to vote for this person, that person, not a person, believe this, that, and whether though half of y'all wrong. I'm going to call you, I'm right, you're wrong. Nothing wrong with having that type of situation going on, but like, I really think telling all your consumers to screw off, or a decent chunk of people that could have been your consumer to screw off, it's just really stupid, and it's extra stupid too, because I think like the Avowed one, I thought I remember hearing that there was maybe like 100-ish people working on that game or something like that. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I thought I remember hearing that. Because that's like a little bit bigger Xbox Studio, Microsoft Studio, something like that, whatever they call the video game people now. Xbox, Microsoft, I don't know. You might then be hurting the other 99 people that are working on your game. The game I've been working on, we've been working on for a little while. I would hate for somebody on the team to go out and tell all these people to screw off, blah, blah, blah. Don't buy a game and being like, hey, I'm going to make money off of this game being sold, or, you know, continue to work at the studio, blah, blah, however you want to look at it. Different studios do it different ways. And I think that guy was like art director or something, so he probably would be making some more money off of it, later sales, whatever. But just like to do that and maybe cost other people money, and because of all these layoffs that's happened this year in the gaming sector, which can sound really bad on paper, But at the same time, too, if you release kind of a bad product, let's say I would likely want you to get fired. But I heard somebody talk about this with Concourse. I thought I heard there was lots of people working on that one too. Maybe it was over time. I don't know why I keep getting 100 people in my mind for all these different game studios. Maybe it's all the genres blend together. But like, if you spent $400 million, spent 10 years working on it, released it, and it was so bad that your parent company had to apologize to the people that bought it and gave them refunds, that sounds like a situation where most people would lose their job. You did such a bad job in that way. Seems fair. Granted, you could probably blame it on this person, those people, higher up, people that worked here, consulting with this person, different things like that, and it's probably not everybody there. You probably had artists just working on stuff, and they were told to make this, and they did it that way. They maybe didn't want to make the character look like that, but somebody else told them to. Different things with that, and I feel bad for them. To hopefully, if you're like good at what you do with that, you should be able to get brought on somewhere else. If you didn't want one of the people responsible for all of those like bad ideas, so hopefully there's some hope with that. But it is sad when you do have all of these people kind of getting laid off and other stuff. Like, I think somewhat, lots of times, actually justifiably, and you could then see that, oh, are we next because this person chose to do this? And I brought like the mouth-washing one. I think there was a couple other ones too, but those are the ones that stand out the most to me. But that one too, like that was a smaller indie studio. I'll say indie studio. I may not even call it really a studio. Might be like 5 people. But I think I remember hearing that this was a contractor that worked in it. I might have that wrong, but I think they hired somebody that makes music, sound, whatever, to work on the stuff for this project for them. And they got that person, and then that person starts bad-mouthing people, representing the people behind the game, which then probably turned off some people that might have agreed with the stuff that he bad-mouthed. I don't think he was even bad-mouthing, well, I don't think personally bad-mouthing even believed with the stuff he was bad-mouthing them about. But the people that get labeled all of those things all the time might agree with the person that got called those things again, and went like, yeah, we're not going to support this game. Also, I just want to say, I think a lot of people throw around titles or labels a lot, some isms, some phobes, stuff like that to people that doesn't even apply to, and have really watered that stuff down. Not saying that people who are going around always saying, like doing racist, like actual legitimate racist stuff, being called racist is bad, but if you did nothing and got called a racist, you might relate to other people getting called a racist more than the people calling them a racist, if that makes any sort of sense. But I think you might have like scared off potential customers by doing all of that, and I think that is just really bad. If like you're having a bigger and bigger uptick with that type of stuff, where people need to be a little bit more careful, because it's not just even, like I said, just having strong political opinions, strong religious or non-religious opinions, strong social opinions. It's when you take that also into like the realm of the consumer and like pushing that on them, or wanting to get away people that could potentially buy your product because they might be that. It's weird to me. I don't really get the idea of that, especially not in like the entertainment industry. That's why I would consider video games to be a part of. But yeah, so this is just that one. Moving on, we have kind of like the next sort of big, dab on them game for this kind of like release year, which is, let's see, was it Dragon Age the Veilguard? I originally put this on here kind of mostly for one reason. It was kind of similar to the Star Wars Outlaws one, about kind of the faces looking bad, and I guess also kind of like the Unknown Number 9, where it was like, I don't know, something just doesn't look that good about the game. Though there's also been the past couple of days more stuff come out about how the game didn't sell really well. I think originally one thing was that it missed its sales mark by 85%. Now they're saying it's just 50%, but they were saying they had 50% less players, which is different than sales. Because something said also too about, I thought something I heard said it was on Game Pass, which could get you lots of players, but I don't know. I know that's not a sell for the game. I don't know how much money you get given from being on Game Pass, and then if you're doing the sales metric, it being on Game Pass, somebody playing it, they're going to be a player. They are not going to be a sales figure of the game. So I guess you could have 50% less players than you were planning for, and also 85% less sales. That seems kind of extreme, but if it's a Game Pass thing, maybe lots of the players all came from Game Pass. Now somebody else said it was also like a game that you could have got for like free if you bought a new computer, some stuff like that. Well, how I got Star Wars Outlaws. So like, does that count? I think that might count more as a sell, but that's not a sell where somebody actually went out and bought your product because they wanted it. They were getting a new computer, and a new computer costs lots of money. So they reached that threshold to get the free video game. But yes, you have some stuff with that. Also, I think that is just really interesting when you go and look at like how stuff is working behind the scenes and how different figures can sort of be twisted to like, oh, well, we only had this less of players, and it's like, well, what about actual sales and other stuff like that? I think that's just kind of neat. We're talking about that, but the thing I originally wanted to put this one on here for, and I'm glad to wait to have that other information. I'm saying they're only missing it by 50%. Also, they said they have 1.5-ish million players. Honestly, that seems kind of low. Saying that you only missed your player count by half, which would be 3 million, seems low for a game of that scale from that studio that they've been working on maybe for 10 years. I think it was 10 years ago was the last Dragon Age game that said they worked on exactly for the whole time. But a good chance they kind of maybe were. So yeah, that's not. That seems kind of small what you probably spent on that game, which I think is very interesting. Though I'm gonna say that like 10 million players also might be like really greedy. I might need to actually see, but it's like you have enough people on the planet now that should be kind of good. But I guess I'm also looking at some like multinational games, maybe some more Asian focused ones, so you're having more players over there play it, then also coming over here and doing well. Maybe the ones more over here don't do very well going over there, so you might not get maybe the sales that games from over there get coming. Of course, it's at midnight or after midnight. Those kind of games get coming over here. But that does seem kind of rather low to me. But the reason I first put this on the list is, and I'm tempted to call out Tosh with this, but I feel like there's enough stuff talking about them that I want to talk about somebody else that I don't know what the character's name is. I just know they were in some of the like compilations of like bad dialogue and some other stuff with them. And this is what looks like a short girl. She reminds me of some character from some other game I played that was like a halfling or dwarf, something like that. Kind of looks like that to me. But she's just sitting there, she's like, oh. And it's just like not much facial expression, not much mouth. Lots of the cutscenes I have seen, especially the ones where they're just sitting around. And I say this as somebody from a studio that's working on a game, and don't say have a hard time doing that, but it's not like it's always the easiest thing to get all of that stuff working. It's very easy to say make the character look good, make the animation look good, they should have done a better job here, but we're not a big name studio that is backed by EA, I believe. I believe EA owns BioWare. I believe that was the devs behind this. They did the Mass Effect series, of course, Dragon Age itself. What was this? Dragon Age 6, 7, something like that. It's not a game I really ever played. But you have all that pedigree. You would expect something to look a little bit better, and it just looks all. Like I said, I think Tosh is maybe the best example of this. But they are, I don't know what the name, actually I feel like Kanari and Dranesh or something like that. I don't know enough about the game to really tell you anything about that, but that's like, she's, I don't want to say half Greek, because that sounds bad, but she's half this fictional non-human race and this other fictional non-human race. If I call on correctly, so she's not fully this, not fully that, but I don't think either one of those are human. One of them's a dragon or something like that, a dragon person. I think the stuff I've seen of them, they all look kind of a little bit weird and off. But she just like really stands out. But I give her a little bit of a pass because I think she's also a little bit weird, uncanny valley, because she doesn't really look like a human, but she's also not a human. So she gets a pass that like maybe that Star Wars Outlaws main character doesn't, because she's supposed to be a human. When she looks kind of a little bit more like it's like a Star Trek alien. Like you go to the makeup tent for 15 minutes, you come out looking like her, and you're ready to be aliens on a foreign planet. This one, she's actually different, but I mean, maybe that character I'm talking about is not a human. Like I said, maybe halfling dwarf, or that's what she reminds me of. But that's like close enough. But she just looks kind of like off. She's supposed to be having these reactions like, oh, but she's not like, oh, she's just, oh my, huh? Okay, yeah, sure, we can do that. And it's just, it looks off. But I think that's also like a weird and different type of cut. It's not maybe like one of the main cutscenes. One of those that's like, I say, it reminds me of what's like in Genshin Impact, where you have like cutscenes, and then you have some like a little bit lesser ones, and then you have your characters still spawned into the world, and they are standing next to the character talking to their in-game character model and not doing anything special. Like you literally just walked up to them, pressed E on them. So I know you do have some stuff kind of like that in some other different games, but it just really stood out to me going like, I think this was a $70 game too. If not, it was a $60 game. Like, they're trying to sell me this for $70. They said they needed to increase the budget on video games by $10, and they gave me this, which looks worse than other stuff you got X number of years ago. Honestly, I think you have lots of games now that's coming out that look worse than games 10 years ago. Look, granted, lots of those are also stylized games. You're going for something maybe it's supposed to be more realistic. It's not like the best comparison, because like I think Breath of the Wild will age better than lots of other games. Well, I mean, of course, you have some other art styles like maybe the grim dark gothic aesthetic, whatever you want to call it, for like not Elden Ring, but the original Dark Souls. Like that one has a little bit more of a unique art style, but like I don't think that looks as good as some other games do that's a little bit more stylized or maybe a little bit more colorful than that one. Like I said, I guess honestly Nintendo would probably be the one I'd give this maybe sort of the best to, but then something like Astro Bot. Yeah, Astro, I was called Astro Boy. Like that one's probably going to stand the test of time a decent bit too. I mean, of course, at some point we're going to have stuff that looks so good that's like, oh my gosh, this looks horrible now. Like I went back to this old racing game that I played when I was like 6, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's what the water looked like. But yeah, that one is mostly cause I just don't think it really looks that good. The character animations, all that stuff looks stiff. The dialogue, because the dialogue doesn't help either. But like I said, maybe if you were a little bit more emotive with your like body, that could make up for some of the dialogue and maybe some of the stiffness with that. And maybe the dialogue would feel less stiff, or the character looked less stiff. But that's just one that's kind of stood out to me with all the stuff talking about the dialogue and other things going on in there. I'm just looking at it, I'm like, this just doesn't look good. Something just looks off here. Like, I don't want to hate on the animation team at work, but like it makes me think of something that I would think we would be having a problem with at work. Being a smaller indie studio, this might be some of our like first games we're working on. I mean, we're probably not going to get like that level of quality. I know it's also like bad too. Though I guess if you're going for more realistic, you want more realistic animations, all that kind of stuff. But like, I feel like I would give that more of a pass to us, and what we're probably going to be asking for when we release our game versus like, ooh, that's $70. Like I said, you want me to give you an extra $10 because this costs so much to make, and it looks like that. So yeah, that's kind of harsh. Though the harshest thing I have next up on my list, I put me on there, mostly for my. I want to be kind of like fair with this. I want to just like hate on the more popular things to hate on, like some stuff that I'm more interested in, other things like that. But honestly, I was really hoping that we would be able to work at the game that we've been working on out this time. Well, I guess this year, this rate. But last year, we were not able to meet anything to do that. Working on this, I've been at this studio since 2017, I believe. May 2017, because I believe I did that. I think I started near graduation at what? Oh, sorry, graduation from college, or maybe it was March. I might have started 3 months before graduation. I remember going down to graduation, staying at the hotel, talking to my dad about some stuff with work and some different things we were looking forward to with that back then. So I must have already been working there for a little bit to already be talking to him about some of that stuff. Though at the time I was like, they're the 3 people I did my final project with at school all worked there too. So it was kind of neat. But of course we're still working on the game. If anybody is interested, the game's called Eden Falling. It used to be Apocalypse the Afterfall, but had to get changed. You might see some old stuff with that. Though I mean, the stuff honestly probably listening to that, so like outdated now. Probably is a very poor reflection of the game. Granted, maybe the lore and other stuff, but like any more like visual medium with that would definitely be outdated. And I don't want to talk too much about that stuff because, like I said, NDA, don't want to be like revealing anything I shouldn't be kind of revealing. I think I have some loose lips. I don't know why I brought my tongue out for that part. But I have some loose lips. I don't want to say too much. But if anybody who does want to look that up, does want to follow us for when we release, probably going to like mention that on Discord, some other things like that. But I'm a little bit sad that we weren't able to get it out this past year. Hoping that we maybe can get something more out this year then instead. We've been working on it for a little while, and I know we'd like to show everybody the stuff we're working on. It is really hard not to just like on stream boot up Unity, because yes, my stream PC, work PC, game PC, all that's the same PC, and I'll just show everybody the stuff we've been working on, my wonderful team's been working on, the stuff I've been working on. You can get these little things that just blow your mind, or tools from other teams. I got something from our team. Yes, honestly, it was a couple months ago at this rate, but it was just so cool. I'm sure it's such a basic tool for like the industry as a whole, and shouldn't be kind of like, but it was just so cool to get it, and been like doing a lot of work with that recently, and being able to fix little things with it, and touch up levels and other stuff. And I would just love to be able to talk about that kind of stuff in full, but sadly I can't. And I am just disappointed. I'm not saying I can talk about all that stuff once the game's out either. But I would have loved to have been able to have gotten the game out. And I feel like it's fair when you were wanting to hope to release it maybe last year or something, like trying to get it out, to call yourself out with that. Like if I am bashing other people, I think my mouth's getting kind of dry. I can't really speak very good now. But if I'm doing that to the other people, I should also be fair and call myself out because like, oh, talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows getting moved back about what 7 months or something. Like, well, if we wanted to have the game out last year and it's now this year, well, that's something kind of happened with us too, or something. Like, if I'm going to criticize other people for not releasing when maybe they wanted to call out myself. Also, like, I'm not saying I'm in charge of working on this game. I mean, it is of course a team effort. You can't just do everything to get the game out, but it's also like, it is part of a team. You have to take that responsibility also onto yourself. You can't just divert it all onto other people at your company. So I felt like it would be wrong to have this without putting myself on here for not being able to work hard enough or do whatever was needed to be able to get the game released. Not saying that it's like they're waiting on me to get the game out and I've been like just sitting around with my thumb up my butt for the past 3 months, 8 months, whatever. It's not like it's one of those type of situations, but I thought it was fair to include myself on here. And I also think that helps kind of balance out some of the other stuff I've talked about. But lastly, and I actually had forgotten to put this one on the list, but I think it's worth calling it out. Because also talking about Multiverses is actually what reminded me of this. This game is actually kind of so forgettable. I had actually forgotten about it. But another kind of big failure, I think, for this past year is Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League. All kinds of weird stuff with that game. There was a streamer I actually followed that got, I think, sponsored to play, or maybe they're just playing it themselves. And I think they were talking about basically when they got done with it, it was like 14 hours to beat the story, $70 game. And then you could like grind for loot and other stuff and get better guns, but like you would beat all the actual like interesting content. It was like all these other encounters to go do the basic open world thing. But I actually thought some of the gameplay looked kind of fun. I thought the characters looked more samey than I would have hoped they were from like the initial trailer. Cause honestly, I thought the game looked very interesting from the initial trailer. But it released and just wasn't really that good. Of course, all the story stuff, not that I've played the Rocksteady games and didn't really care about that, was kind of weird. It was almost like an apocalyptic scenario where like all the Justice League dies or something like that. I think that was a little bit less interesting. I guess that was to make it a live service game where Brainiac takes over and you had to get heroes from other universes. Also, it's kind of stupid to me, heroes from other universes. That was the updates to the game. Because what was it? It was, you had alternate universe Joker, you had Mrs. Freeze, you had Floyd Lawton's Deadshot's daughter, and you had a fourth one that was also kind of forgettable. I don't remember what they were. I think that one's released now or something. They finally, I think, released. Maybe they haven't released it. I can't remember. But I put that on here for something that probably should have been interesting, or you should have been able to have made that game interesting, and they somehow managed to make it not interesting and was really bad. I forget, because it's been a long time since they kind of talked about it. But it was some stuff, I think they were talking about how bad that had kind of done for Warner Brothers games, and maybe they were shutting down some studios and some other stuff because of it. But I think they said they'd been working on that game also for 10 years. Lots of 10-year games. I think it was like a different studio than worked on some of the other Batman or Arkham-related video games. But it's just, it didn't do that great. But like I said, when I saw like, hey, it was 14 hours to beat the story, that probably would be where I would stop at the game. Maybe I'll do some of the side content along the way to maybe get some better loot to do the story. The better loot's not the most interesting. I kind of want cooler loot. That's like my EDF brain going off there. It's like, yeah, you can get a stronger gun, but I kind of want to unlock the guns that do something different. That this one shoots 18 lightning bullets instead. Okay, that sounds kind of cool. That's better than just, oh, this is that same assault rifle but stronger. This is my favorite one was in Iron Rain is, this sniper rifle does 9,999 damage. It'll basically one-shot anything in the game, but you shoot it one time and then it has no more ammo. It's like, okay, that's kind of interesting. They just didn't really do that in there. And I think this was another one where it was Warner Brothers. We're talking about Warner Brothers, WB Games, I think it was the studio's name, or whatever, that's the gaming department, about how much money they kind of lost on stuff like that, because I believe that game didn't break even. It's a while since I've heard some of the talk about that game, or at least like that was back whenever it released, which I think was this past year, because I think we haven't gone to the full, we haven't gone to the full DLC 1 year cycle yet. Also, I wanted a special shout out to this game too, because I remember seeing some stuff talking about it on the Multiverses subreddit, talking about how, well, can you really call that game a failure because, it's still getting DLC, but them not also knowing that, well, one, they sold a deluxe, $90, $100 version of the game that promised 4 DLCs with it, so they already got money for that, so they're kind of honor bound to deliver on that. Or I would think you'd have to do probably a full refund for that package. Maybe you could just refund the extra and cut the difference between the base game, maybe. But you would have to do something with that. Also, probably the stuff was already somewhat developed. I think as soon as the game released, they already had the stuff data mined. I want to say I remember day one hearing about the Jonkler and Mrs. Freeze or something like that, and joking about that's the DLC characters. This is the core DC villains that you're releasing. I mean, I think they'd maybe already killed the Joker in that universe, so I guess you could. I guess you could have done something to bring him back. That I think would have been cooler than going to the alternate universe. The weirder versions of these characters. But yeah, I just think it was just interesting seeing some stuff with that, thinking a game still getting DLC is a sign that the game is successful and everything, and not looking at it and going well, maybe this is stuff that was, of course, they already promised it and already sold it, so they kind of had to release it. It was already somewhat done at the time, or they already had some work done. That's they didn't want to make too much money, but they did put the game on sale for $3, I think. So I don't know, maybe if you picked it for $3, you might would pick up another $2 worth of DLC, maybe. Which I think to me that's also your biggest sign that the game did back. I think that was a $60, $70 experience, and you put it on sale less than a year later for $3. I was tempted myself to pick that up. I still just thought it probably wasn't worth it. There's actually games I'd probably have more enjoyment out of for $3 than that game. I don't want to sound too hateful in it, but I do pick up a couple games on sale on Steam that are $3, and I'll play them I guess it's not exactly long, but I might do 2 6-hour sessions or something like that and have a good time with them. And hey, that's my money there. But yeah, I just think this is interesting. It is a neat kind of one to look at. Also, as I heard some other stuff mentioned with that game in particular, with it being kind of a looter shooter live service game, it feels almost peak. I don't want to say buzzword. I think that sounds more political, social, whatever type of conversation. But it feels almost like buzzword for game bingo or something. Okay, it's live service, looter shooter, so you're always looking for weapons with different roles on them, almost open world. Of course, multiplayer. That's not as big of a one. I'm honestly kind of just missing gotcha. Really, that's kind of the only thing I'm really see you're missing. It kind of hit all of that kind of stuff. It diverted away from what the studio was known for. Honestly, I'll say it's like a Batman Arkham style game, but maybe something where you put in that level of effort, where you played as King Shark, Deadshot, Harley Quinn, and Captain Boomerang would have been really interesting. You have some people that are really kind of like neat with some unique, or I would imagine somewhat unique play style. I don't know if Harley Quinn, maybe Deadshot's the most unique of the two. King Shark, I think Captain Boomerang would have been the cooler two. But I think Floyd Lawton has some like wrist guns typically. He kind of like shoots. That could have been neat. Not saying that's probably just been like more gun stuff, but you might have done some cool different like aiming things with it or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I feel like it encompasses some of what is wrong with some stuff in the industry. And also, I think that is an interesting one too, where they talked about being in development for 10 years. I don't know when all of those elements were put in. There is some stuff you could change later. Some of these things probably would have been kind of picked early on, but you can like force shift some stuff later. Also, saying it's been development for 10 years, how much of that was like concepting, basic design, all that stuff. I don't know. The art people could be working on that game for like 3 years, or like when you were actually like making the. I'm not saying art, exactly just the art people, but like when you started coding it up, making prototype levels, all of that type of stuff might have just been 3 years. But it's one of those games that it has the elements on it that I think people are now memeing on with video games. That kind of feels like, oh, this was actually probably was started, let's say, 6 years ago, and if it would have released then, could have done better than if it released like when it did, because now people are a little bit more jaded and cynical and look down on some of those things. And yes, these might have been all the rage, like I said, 6 years ago, but now that's kind of now viewed as a negative. And I think this is an interesting example of that. For what it's worth too, I think something that also mentioned, I don't know if this is for sure proved or if it was speculated. I think I've heard some stuff say it kind of looks like some of the elements of the game like it was maybe supposed to be. I haven't played it though, but in Dragon Age, the Veil God, something said it was supposed to be not like a looter shooter, but it was like you were supposed to be like grinding for new gear or something, or however they said would have. I guess it could have been like, what was that, Vermintide or something. I don't really know how that would work. I do think there was a game mode that was like that in Origins. I think that was the last one that you had like some kind of weird roguelike dungeon mode. You go in there with other people and you would like collect loot and you keep on progressing like that. But like, it's from what I've heard, they were supposed to have shifted away from that. I think something said that might have been like it had some issues in other places in the game because it had to make that shift away from that thing that they viewed as no longer being popular, so they needed to change it to something else. Also, I would imagine that would have been some sort of live service type thing, so then shifting it to like a single player experience helps quite a bit. I know stuff talks about like the player numbers for that game not being so great on Steam charts, other things. Granted, also when the game comes out, I think that's a little bit more important then. But like, it's not going to be a game that's probably going to have a very high player count, because it needs a very high player count because you can play that game without anybody else being on there. You could be that one person playing the game right now. That doesn't affect your experience at all. But for these other like online live service things, you kind of do. I guess you could play Kill the Justice League all by yourself. Easily you could do so, but like other games that may more so required other people to be on there, you can't. But I think that's just an interesting one to look at, because like it makes it sound like this one maybe was in development longer, or they got to that point sooner where they couldn't change it. Like I said, if you only had like a 14-hour long like main story to your game, there might not have been that much you could really have done to change it, because you didn't have like enough content to like make an actual full single player-ish game. And I say single player-ish game too, because you had Gotham Knights, Arkham Knights, whatever that one was, where you had like the different Robins and Batgirl that you played as, and it was basically kind of like a single player game, but you could play with other people as those characters. I honestly feel like that was a better execution of what this game was kind of trying to be. because that one actually had like a good kind of story, or at least an interesting story. You had the loot that did different things and blah blah blah. But this one looked like a more... honestly, that one looked like it was like a course-corrected version of what this one should have been. And I think that's just interesting to bring up the Kill the Justice League, because it is... I don't know, it feels almost old, or it feels like very... what would a cynical person take on gaming CEOs want more for video games. And that really feels like it may be a little bit less microtransactions, though I think you did have like in-game store where you could buy skins and some other stuff. I think the person I was watching play, the person he was playing it with actually bought a Harley Quinn skin or something like that. I think I remember him, but I think they also got the currency. I think that's what they were sponsored to play, so they got some currency, and that's how he bought the skin or something like that. But yeah, it feels like the jaded, cynical person's take on this is what corporate wants video games to be. And honestly, it kind of has lots of those elements to it. But yeah, I think with all of that, that is it for the worst of 2024 list. I hope this hasn't been too bad. I'm trying to do this in one take, and I'm doing this live, of course, late at night. My throat is super dry now, but I try not to stop to take a drink. I did mute a couple times. You saw me reaching down here. It doesn't look like where I have the... it's right here. Also, I guess that means when I was tapping it, nobody could see that either when I'm looking directly at it. I'm really surprised that's not in here, but my monitor's kind of high, so my camera's up kind of high. But yeah, I'm hoping to maybe do some other stuff like this. As like I said, I wanted the best of, and then also like another little review thing. And I hope it's okay with me just kind of like rotating around and shifting weirdly and doing all of this stuff. This is what I do when I'm not on camera. But yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this. I know this was kind of rather long, but I hope you enjoyed some of my rambling, maybe hearing my opinion on some of these things, and I hope some of this stuff was different than what you hear maybe from other people. Like I said, try to make this not as focused on just like the social, political, whatever stuff. Of course, some of these things are targets with that stuff, for better or for worse, depending on your opinion of that. But this is not a channel for that. I might do another channel talking about that at some point. But I just wanted to look at these more so as a gamer, in my opinion, what I thought with some of these. Of course, some of the ones, like I said, was too big to not mention, and I'm sure there was some other ones. Also thinking back to it now, you have Dustborn, but that's really kind of social, political type stuff there. There's like a couple other games I think they kind of like released that were just kind of like whimpers. But like I said, I tried to talk more about the bigger ones. Probably Unknown Number 9 might have been like the smallest one maybe on here. But I think it might have been, I don't really know who exactly made that one. I think that's also too just a really bad marketing thing. I'm not talking to you over there. I don't know what they heard going on over there, but sure. But yeah, I hope you have found this enjoyable, and I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here, and hope to see you in a future video. And I hope you enjoy my best of 2024 list I hope to record next. So until next time, this is Betuor Gripley signing off. Goodbye and have a wonderful day. I actually found the stop recording button. Bye.